Welcome to the Grit Behind the Grind podcast, where we dive deep into raw, unfiltered journey of entrepreneurship, fitness, mental health, and building businesses from the ground up. I'm Eric Rowell, co-founder of Grit and Grind Coffee, real estate developer, fitness enthusiast, dad, and husband.
And I'm Destiny Rowell, co-founder of Grit and Grind Coffee, creative, brand strategist, and above all, mom and wife, bringing you real talk on what it takes to thrive as a business owner, especially when you're doing it alongside your partner. Here, we don't just focus on the wins. We dig deep into the struggles, the sacrifices, and the daily grind that it takes to make it all possible. So tune in, subscribe, and get ready to uncover the grit behind the grind.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Grit Behind the Grind podcast. Today, you have both of the OGs in the house today, Eric and Destiny. So we are super excited to kind of talk to you about things that we really want to vent about. I mean, we've been talking about, and it's dude, all of the pain points and all of the difficult things that we've dealt with in our business, if we share those with others, we believe that so many people will get value from that, right, Destiny?
Yeah. So there's so many times I think that you just always see the nice side of things, especially running a business, especially even in our industry, because we're all about positivity. But I think it's super important just to slow down and talk about the mistakes and the pits that we actually go through too, because I don't want for us to be naive and think that you're the only one that actually goes through them. We all go through them, and we're all at different levels of starting our businesses and inside of our business. And so I think it's really neat to just be open and transparent.
Yeah. So what we came up with was 5 common mistakes when partnering in business, right? And so those 5 common mistakes is number 1, no clear role and responsibilities. Number 2, avoiding tough conversations. Number 3, bringing on the wrong team member or partner early. Number 4, chasing growth without structure. And number 5, lastly, mismatch long-term vision, right? We've dealt with all of these things. Every single one of them, we've had these pain points and issues inside of our business. And again, it's one of those things where we really believe that, hey, we honestly didn't know what we were doing, right? I mean, we learned everything from YouTube University, ChatGPT, and we just kind of went in there guns a-blazing. But if I would have learned to get plugged in to a mastermind or, hire a mentor, somebody before I kind of took off to the races, then I would have saved so many pain points and bought back a lot of time and a lot of wasted expense, right?
For sure. Even if we start off with the no clear roles, even if we just micro look at just literally us, it's not bringing in a different partner. We're married, but from the beginning, we had 2 clear roles. And that's so easy to establish, especially whenever you're very left-brained, I'm very right-brained, you're analytical, I'm more creative. Yeah, that's easy. But what happens, or what do we do? What's the conversation look like whenever you have 2 people who are similar? Maybe they're not just married, maybe they bring in a business partner and they're both very visionaries. How do you determine who directs what? When do they direct it? Do we merge in each other's lanes? Because what we've realized is we've grown so quickly because we don't stay in each other's lanes. You do you, I do me, we multiply and grow quickly. So how do we avoid that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is whenever, you remember when we were building the business, we had a sheet of paper, back of the napkin, a spreadsheet, whatever it was, and we had 2 columns, and those 2 columns, pros, cons. And I'm sure that, you can get on the internet and find anything some type of chart, right? And it's crazy as it seems because it seems so mundane, right? But actually putting pen to paper, typing it out and saying, look, hey, Eric and Destiny. One column says Eric, one column says Destiny. These are the things, first you come over here and say, these are the things that need to happen for us to be successful in this business, X, Y, Z. And then you divvy those out, you divide them and say, okay, Des, which ones are you comfortable taking? Which ones are you going to, stay with long-term? And then I choose mine. And then it's we write those out inside the columns. And all we're really doing with this exercise is clearly defining, hey, you're going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then when you have something like that, you kind of go back. I know sometimes you always kind of jokingly say we veer in each other's lanes sometimes, right? But we have that. I guess me and you kind of being married and being partners, we already know what you're good at, what I'm good at. But if we were somebody who was not married, then those roles would definitely be something that I need to know about you, right? Because you get bogged down on doing spreadsheets. I like doing spreadsheets. spreadsheets.
Yeah.
So
And even if we look into it, not just a partnership, like I want people to not think, because they might not even have a partner, but think of hires or employees. Like your employees need a clear role and expectations and responsibilities too, because we've seen this go wrong too. We, in our head, said, okay, we hire you on premium, employee premium pay. In our head, these are expectations. You need to take all the stuff off of my plate. But there was no clear role of what their responsibilities are. And it's not that they wanted to drop the ball. It was our part where we didn't have a clear, like, okay, I need you to do this, 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 and this. And I think if there was a clear, role and responsibility, then they would have done it to the best of their abilities.
yeah, for example, like we had a quality control issue come up just recently, right? And what we learned was we had a strategic person in our business and we expected them to kind of perform at the level that we performed at, which means like master juggling, kind of putting out all the fires across the business model. And what we learned is, in the past we said, hey, your job is to handle quality control, to go to all of the locations that we have and make sure that everybody's adhering to our operations manual, doing everything to our standards. And then after we lost one of our store managers, we pulled that person away and we started getting them to focus on managing that store. And, after a few months, we would call them back and say, hey, we had this quality control thing. We need you to go handle this and take care of it. And what happened is even the people that they were going in and ultimately helping to make sure that quality standards were being met in XYZ, there was some type of disconnect because there was animosity built up. It's like, oh, well, this person just kind of pops up from out of nowhere and trying to like critique my team and tell them what to do and what not to do, right? And then we go back to the person we had involved and doing the quality control piece, and we identified that it was actually the ball getting dropped as us, the employers, as the leaders of the company, because they did not have clear expectations on what their role was to be. Right?
Our other owners didn't know either. They thought that she was just, a lead at or a manager at one of our locations. They did not realize that she was actually corporate quality control. And that was, again, that's where we didn't set a clear role and expectations for our franchise in general. So, yeah.
100%. And then, so number 2 is avoiding tough conversation. So, man, me and Destiny, we both have this people pleasing, kind of character trait. But what we are learning as people, as, employers, as leaders in our organization is, man, one of the biggest gifts, one of the biggest, buyback pain points is having tough conversations immediately, not waiting, not postponing them. But it doesn't matter what comes up. I mean, you need to address it, right? Because it doesn't matter if you can't talk money, vision, mistakes, partnerships, they're all kind of shaky, but whoever you're talking to, there's always going to be the opportunity for you to avoid a tough conversation. And I'm telling you right now, if you avoid a tough conversation, all it's going to do is build up until you eventually explode on someone.
Not even that. What we've learned too is avoiding the uncomfortable, you're prolonging the growth. And so if you are sitting there on something that you're like, man, I don't want to make someone feel bad, I don't want to be mean, then you are stopping the process of growing into what you're really called to be or do. And that might be sitting across from someone and having a hard conversation and saying, hey, you are giving your all. It's just not what we need in our company. We have to let you go. Because guess what? If I'm keeping that barista in my company selfishly because I don't want to hurt her feelings, I'm stopping her from doing what she is called to do somewhere else. When there's a clear, a very clear vision that she's just not made to be here. Maybe it's a very fast-paced life and she's more chill and slow and supposed to be, more intentional somewhere. So again, growth and comfort can never coexist. So that moment that you hit that uncomfortable spot, if you can just train your brain to be like, sis, we're growing. Like after we get over this, it's going to be so beautiful. And some of the most awkward conversations that we've had, even this week, the most beautiful, results have come from that. People have, fallen into leadership roles. People have, washed clean slates and don't hold grudges. It's really neat what happens out of these tough, uncomfortable spots.
Yeah. Also, when you avoid having hard conversation, it sets a new standard of what's acceptable. Let's just imagine that somebody comes in and they're late, you're kind of rushed, or you have other things that are on your plate, and you just avoid having that hard conversation and be like, look, hey, we're not going to do this. We're not going to make this acceptable. We need to make sure that you are here on time at your regular schedule. And then that tells the whole team right there what your expectations are. But as soon as you allow that type of behavior, what does it tell the rest of your team? And then now what you're doing is you got to go back and you got to basically rectify all of those things that your team now thinks is acceptable.
Yeah, by not saying something, you clearly say something. And now you just don't have to have one awkward conversation. You have to go back and have 7 or 8 or 10 awkward conversations with all your employees to say, okay, so and so did this. That's not our standards here. We expect this. But then it's like, you didn't even have to have that. All you could have said was, hey, we don't do late. And then the crew would have been like, example, see the example, not being late.
All right. So number 3 is bringing on the wrong team or partner too early, or whenever that is, right? Because we've all heard the saying, hire slow, fire fast, right? And what does that actually look like? I can tell you that we've made this mistake many, many times, and we have learned so much from bringing on the wrong people, because they are toxic. They will bring down your culture, whether that is inside your team, your organization. It is going to be something that is energy sucking.
Yeah. And I don't want you to just think about like employees, like even business partners. Like there's so many, and that's even a larger scale to think about. And that's pretty scary to bring someone into your organization and into your culture that comes in as a leader, and then they're setting the tone. Like as soon as you feel something off, you have to let it go. I mean, some partnerships, it's going to be harder to get out than others. There's going to be legal issues. There's going to be documentation that has to be done. But just like going back to that number 2, avoiding tough conversations, you're just prolonging the growth that needs to happen.
Yeah, something that kind of like pops up in my mind is we are a coffee franchise. So basically what a coffee franchise is we have a successful business model that has, how do you open your own coffee business? And it also allows us to have this scalability piece and tool inside of our organization. We have a trademark that we now let other people buy into and use that trademark, as well as a proven system that is allowing you to come in and open up a coffee shop A to Z, right? And before we started this coffee franchise, we actually did licensing deals. So that trademark that we created and owned, we allowed other people to come in and use that trademark and say, hey, they were a part of the Grit and Grind Coffee brand. And the cool thing about this is you always look at the glass, whether it's half full or half empty, right? And we look at this as a lesson because yes, we had to go through some very painful things in the beginning with those licensees. But however, going through those painful things with those licensees allows us to have a more buttoned up system that is more protected for all of our future franchisees coming in. And some of those deals went really bad because other people did not have our core values and they was not aligned with us. So they would come in and yeah, we had a certain way of doing it. We wanted to be the Chick-fil-A of the coffee industry. We wanted to make sure that we had community first, that service above product. And this person, as a licensee, she came in and she said, you know what? I don't want to do it the way that you guys are doing it, even though that it's successful. I want to go do it my own way. And I want to do things that we really didn't believe would make the brand successful. So we had to get out of that partnership early on. And then we had another licensee that kind of came in and they was like, yeah, I see that you have a great proven model and system. I'm going to take this and just delegate it off to somebody and not be in the business. Like they thought that they were going to come in and completely just hire a manager and they run the entire business and they own it. Well, that absentee owner 100% of the time really just didn't work out, right? So we learned a lot of things by not partnering with the wrong people. So we do a lot of vetting. I mean, we tell a lot of people no. They come to us all the time. It's like, hey, I want to open up a Grit and Grind Coffee. And it's like, being that we went through all of these painful things early on, we have a good metric and gauge on what we are looking for. And if you are the right fit and you're going to be successful as a grit and grind coffee franchisee. So, man, we have paid for
Mhm.
wrong partnerships in that category, high dividends.
Yeah. And the biggest lesson I think if we're trying to talk about some tangible things is it's so easy for us to put our goggles on and to just be so focused on growing and all the good things that you see. Sometimes we hide or like make excuses for those red flags. But again, like Eric said at number one, write those things down. Write down like the pros and cons of this person. You're doing them a justice and yourself, and you're probably avoiding long-term hurts and pitfalls, if you take a second to actually slow down and be real. And then also what Eric and I learned is having other people on your board or in your corner that really does have your brand's best interests, and they also have an outer perspective to look in. They don't have those goggles on a lot. So we have people in our corner that we trust with our brand that are invested and have multiple locations too. And I know that they are brand family first, and they'll be real and honest with us. They're like, maybe you should look into this. Like, could you really do a road trip with them? Would you really sit down with dinner? And then it gets you thinking. So I think that's important too, to have someone in your corner that is unbiased as well.
Yeah, so that kind of throws us into number four, which is, chasing growth without structure. And this is another thing that we, also did. We kind of went hot out the gate and we went really fast, really quick, and we did not have a lot of this structure in place. Scaling chaos just creates bigger chaos, right?
Yep. You got to kind of go back and undo things. And we always joke and say we're building a plane as we're flying it. And yeah, as a scrappy entrepreneur, you want to do that. But in the end, like you've got to kind of pause. And that's where our 2025 is. It's like we're pausing, like we're going back because we have grown so much and we're slowing down to see, okay, what can we do to make our systems and processes and operation manual and quality control just to its best performance? Because 2026, they're not ready for us, but we need to be ready for it as well. And that looks like making sure we have all these things so we don't have to go back and talk to 12 different other owners and say, hey, we're going to do this. It makes our life easier. It makes us more money, but we're going to do this. That's just really hard, especially the larger that we get.
Yeah. So just think about this. Like if you're fixing to start a business or you're early on in your entrepreneur journey, think about like all the things that could go wrong. And if you identified them before scaling, then think about who has to change their mindset, right? You do, maybe like one or two people on your team. But then after you start scaling and you have 40, 50, 100 people in your brand and organization, it's hard to kind of go backwards and say, hey guys, we all kind of started off doing this thing over here and it's not aligned with who we need to be for growth. And that's what 100 people that you have to go change their bad habits, right? So kind of setting that out, clear expectations in the beginning before scaling is definitely a benefit.
Yeah, and you're not going to have everything. Like even when Chick-fil-A implemented the My Pleasure, it took them 5 years to implement that. Like so that's just business in general. You're always going to find things that are going to make your culture better. You're going to want to implement those. But we're talking about those base kind of foundation items.
Yeah. And, like Destiny said, you don't have to have it all figured out, but at least spending some time on it to kind of strategically think of, okay, hey, what are my expectations going to be when I have 50 employees and I'm 5 years in, and kind of solve some of those problems in the beginning is going to save you a lot of time. Like, you're not going to have everything figured out and dialed in, but if you do put a little bit of front end work in the beginning, you will be thankful for it in the long run.
Yeah. And so to wrap things up, we're going to hit you at number 5, and that is going to be mismatched long-term visions. So a one owner or one partner might not have that end goal that you have. And so what's some red flags that we've seen where we're like, crap, man, we should have kind of paid attention to this?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is whenever we ask questions, and the questions are based around like where we're going as a brand, right? So anytime that a franchisee comes in and they do a discovery day with us, we start to ask them, hey, who are you going to put in place to run this location? And we're looking for a very specific answer, right? We want to make sure that those answers that they give are aligned with where we're trying to go. And I mentioned this earlier. We had a licensee. They came in and they basically, wanted to go keep their main job that they had and then just put a manager in place, never go check on the business, never really do things to drive up sales. It wanted to be like a buy it, put it away and forget about it.
Set it and forget
That's
it.
not how a successful business runs. So whenever I'm asking a franchisee on discovery day, I say, hey, who are you going to put in place? Well, the answer that I'm looking for is we're going to give them the secret.
We're giving the
because
secret. Okay.
at the end of the day, we don't want people to come in and buy a job. So if they say, hey, I'm going to run it forever, I've always wanted to own a coffee shop, that's not our people, right? Because what we want is people that's going to come in, they're going to be a face of the brand, they're embedded into their community, and they're going to say, hey, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to go 100% in on this business for the first 3 to 6 months. After I learn everything about the business, I'm then going to put an operations manager in place where I can completely step out and just kind of be the PR, person inside the community. Because what that does, it tells me that somebody is not willing to put in the work. They're going to roll up their sleeves, but they also have a strategic mindset to say, hey, I'm going to replace myself in 3 to 6 months. That way they can go focus on opening 2, 3, 4, and 5 locations, right? So I guess to answer your question, it's basically making sure that we are asking questions, that we're getting answers that people are going to be aligned with where we're trying to go with our organization.
Yeah, and that's knowing yourself, what your goal is and where you want your organization to be, a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. So that might look like you actually sitting down and writing that out as well. So that way, when you're going into this with maybe a partner or profit share manager or something like that, that you can articulate, okay, these are my goals. Because if you don't know, then we're all just floating out here and we're hoping for the best. But like Eric said, like we strategically partner with people who see the long-term goal, like multi-units. And we're like, okay, we're on the same page because guess what? There's not going to be any friction there. We've got the playbook to get you to multi-units quickly. You're going to follow it. We're all going to be sitting on a beach hopefully soon.
Yeah. All right. So that's all we got for you guys today. But look, if you are looking for getting into the coffee business or having that in your portfolio, reach out to us at gritandgrind.coffee. You can apply to be one of our franchisees and see if it's an area that we are willing to expand to. If you are another coffee shop owner, we have a great resource for you, and that is the Mobile Coffee Mastermind.com. Des, tell me where that is.
Yep.
So basically, that is for all people who are looking to take their coffee shop and business to the next level. And how do you scale? How do you replace yourself? How do you not have a job, right? So we have all of those resources available. We have free resources available at Facebook. We have a group called Mobile Coffee Entrepreneurs. You can go check that out if you're getting started in the mobile coffee business. And then also like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yep, YouTube. We've got tons. Scroll down to some of our early stuff. We kind of talk about the nitty gritty, and then TikTok is full of education as well.
Yeah. So there's something for everybody. Hopefully this was valuable for you. And until next time, no grit, no problems.
Bye.